Los Angeles, I'm in most Hollywood nights. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, December 12th. LA Galaxy getting busy with some of those off-season moves as they're still basking in the limelight of their sixth MLS Cup champion. As Mike Araujo just let everybody know, we got a bunch of stuff to talk to. CONCACAF Champions Cup. We have contract decisions on some players. We have the injury to Riqui Puig and his surgery. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then construction starting at Dignity Health Sports Park, expansion draft, all that sort of fun stuff there and in the way. To help us do all that, we're glad to have him back. I do would like to mention he does have his shirt on, which is always a fun part. Welcome back to the show. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good.
I'm on the other side of the health kick. I know when I talked to you last week, I was feeling like I was maybe a wounded animal, but nothing a sixth MLS Cup can't heal. So, the vibes at Dignity Health Sports Park were feeling good, seeing everybody, saying hi to everybody, watching that game go down, seeing everything, spending time with family, and then on the road to recovery. It's just I've been riding high all week long, like many people have, and then just the icing on the cake is to hear the intro with Mike Araujo re-recorded, right. Six-time MLS Cup champion, the LA Galaxy. I mean, how sweet it is.
I'll tell you, if we could give you a little behind the scenes of that, he was nice enough to come over just today. This happened an hour ago. He was here in the studio when we were re-recording it. And it was so funny because we were sort of flashing back to whenever we recorded that one. Because we had updated some. He had done some earlier ones, and then we updated, and so this was him doing updated stuff. And, I don't remember when we did it, 2014, 2015. It was right after, the LA Galaxy won the 5-time. And it's like, oh, well, we got to say 5-time MLS Cup champion in there. We recorded it. You know how it is whenever, you do something the first time, it's really easy, but whenever you try to replicate something, it's hard. This was us trying to get it because the timing had to still be right. It has to fit in between the segment. And it's funny saying 5-time MLS Cup champion and 6-time MLS Cup champion. You would think that they would fit right in. They don't.
It's right there.
They don't. It's like almost a full second longer, which is hysterical and how everything did. So Mike had to work really hard in order to get this all back into where it was, but he was determined. And so we got it, and now we have it. I may mess with some levels eventually here and there, but for the most part, that's what we got. But I mean, I couldn't let it go. We couldn't have a show that said 5-time MLS Cup champion. Even Mike was
not twice.
We can't do that. Well, by the way, it doesn't say it on Monday nights.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's Mike and I also. We were sitting there.
Shows how avid of a listener I am, how closely I'm paying attention.
Well, it is funny, just doing the whole thing. It's like Mike was like, yeah, I was listening to Monday and being like, oh man, we didn't get it. We need to get this next one. And I'm like, they don't say it on Monday. And he was like, yeah, I listened and we don't say it on Monday. I'm like, there you go.
Well, there he goes. Well, he is a pro. Shout out to Mike. A lovely gentleman, just a great dude. So to hear his voice, obviously it's magical what it does, but to have him, in the stadium announcing his thing, that's just those little touches, having the Mike Araujo on COG doing the intro, that's what makes this special.
It is fun. It makes it real for me. It makes it fun for me. It's really fun sitting here working with him, being like, listen, Mike, I think maybe we weren't in it as much that way. Let's try to get with, and I'm sitting there going, dude, you're the professional. I'm just here trying
Who are you to direct him?
right.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole deal. No, he was laughing. He's such a humble man. I absolutely love him to death. I say hi to him. First person I say hi to basically whenever I come into the stadium, every time I walk straight up, go to my seat, drop my bag down, walk over, tap him on the shoulder whenever he's not busy. Even if he is busy, I just bug him. It's pregame. I'm like, hey, dude, and I fist bump him, and if he has a chance, he gets to talk. Him and his lovely wife are just amazing. So they give a lot to the LA Galaxy, and obviously, they're paid employees and all that fun stuff. But I don't think Michael Rajo's raking in the millions of dollars, that type of thing.
He's not retiring on that Galaxy announcer money. Maybe he is. We don't know. Making assumptions, but I'm with you. You got to kiss the ring whenever you're in the press box and near Mike there.
That was the other thing. He did bring his LA Galaxy 2014
the literal ring.
It was here in this studio. I got to put it on and wear it as I have on some of the other ones. I think I've had I think 2012 and 2014 are the two that I've had on a bunch. But other than that, if you go earlier, I don't think I've had an 11. And then I know I haven't had any like 05s, 02s. That I have never.
That's a different animal.
That is. Yeah, my son got to put the ring on too. He had to put like 2 fingers into the hole there, and he's like, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It was the whole deal. We're like, we'll get you there. So, but yeah, it's a busy time. Mike was gracious enough to stop by, and now we're sort of in this weird sort of in between, right? You still want to sell. By the way, it just happened over the weekend. Yeah. It wasn't like it was months ago, Eric. This just happened.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. And I was listening to Monday's show with the Panda, just how when you're in 13th place and you get knocked out, there's a long lull before you get to roster decisions and schedule release. And like, man, when is MLS going to release schedules? When are the roster decisions happening? What's happening? Exit interviews were 6 weeks ago. So what exactly, when is the season going to get up and going again? But, being 10 years since we were last in MLS Cup, right, you take for granted that there is still soccer going on up until, beginning of December. And now is when the season picks back up for everyone who had early dismissal, at the end of the regular season. And now they've had all this time to process. And the Galaxy fans are kind of thrown right back into it and jolted back into, pre-2025 season news. And it feels like a quick adjustment, but it's just something that we're not used to. I'll take this version of it where it's just Galaxy talk, 365, all season long, just because there's plenty to talk about when you're extending your season like this. I didn't like it when there was the 2-week break in the playoffs, but it is nice when you're extending and having this Galaxy talk all the way through.
I would say that was it was over 3 weeks in the playoffs. It was 22 days or 23 days. So that's certainly, I know.
So long ago.
I know it's one of those things, and you're like, good Lord. And by the way, watching some of the behind the scenes things and Greg Vanney talking about the Galaxy coming out, and it didn't seem like you had 3 weeks off. Like that's how you play, the whole deal. I would like to point out the LA Galaxy are working on a docuseries, and have been for quite some time. So I think it even picks up and really starts to sort of point at stuff during the boycott year too, right? So when this eventually comes out, I mean, where's the viewing party going to be? Because this is something like I think we should watch together, right? I mean, this is one of those things.
Yeah, I think a viewing party for sure. I want to shout out Will Misselbrook. I saw him out on the concourse, said hello, and he gave me some motivational words before the game that I won't share on air because we're still a family show.
Right.
But that's kind of set the tone of how I was feeling going into it. But I think back to the conversation we had with him about the team that did the Drive to Survive is making the Apple documentary for the season, and they're working with the Galaxy and MLS, and then it clicked in my head. This being, the official Apple TV year and them doing a Drive to Survive MLS style show to get people into it, it makes me think, the Galaxy made a run. They're the champions of the season. So this is going to be the marquee show that MLS is going to be pushing out, on Apple TV or Galaxy programming or however they do it. And the Galaxy is going to be the focal point. The Galaxy is going to be the focus of it, and they're going to be the champions at the end of this documentary. And that just excites you even more again, because as cool as the show was probably going to be regardless of who the champion is, because being MLS nerds that we are, seeing the ins and outs and seeing the behind the scenes, we're suckers for that stuff. having it be your team, be the team that lifts the trophy at the end of that is just it's gonna make it that much sweeter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what we haven't talked to you. What did you just your whole? How do you surmise your trip and everything that you have that you were able to do? Seeing the LA Galaxy win their 6th MLS Cup championship.
Yeah.
You flying in, you were able to come to the game with some people, I think too, and then of course you're a celebrity, so everybody knew you anyway, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my funny story that I tell whenever there's a new contender that comes to me to a Galaxy game. You know, I have some old friends that I know who have been Galaxy fans, and you know, we keep in touch via chat and via text, the group text. But I'm not at games with them every weekend, and since I've moved away, explaining to them, hey, I do a podcast. They're okay, cool. You know, happy for you that you do that. And then when you show up to the stadium and people are like, Hammer, there's the Hammer, and they look at me like, hold on, what's happening? Who are you? It's like, I thought I knew you and now I don't know you. So that's always the fun thing, showing to the stadium, and it being MLS Cup elevated it to another level, because I think if you're at MLS Cup willing to pay the ticket fee to get in there, there are people who are not going to miss it. You're a Galaxy diehard, and the likelihood of being someone who's going to recognize you or Kevin or Sophie or Alex or myself, that likelihood shoots way up, because you're getting the highly concentrated Galaxy fan. You're not getting a lot of casuals walking through the door. So that's the game day experience. But I'm going to take it back even to the Seattle win. I wasn't officially on last week. I know I did my call-in when I did, but in this playoffs, after the first round in Colorado, you and I had conversations, and we said, who's playing better than the Galaxy right now? And that's when it started to click. Okay, this can be a run where you peak at the right time. All the players start moving. You had that, 9-1 goal differential, and you think, okay, this is something special that can happen here. Then you have the week break. You say, okay, the 3-week break. Are things going to swing? Is it going to work out for the Galaxy? And then they come back and play Minnesota, and you see the 6-goal explosion. And that's something that I have said all the time. Where's the 5-0 blowout? Where's the 6-2? Where's the 7-2 versus Kansas City? Where's that goal explosion? And there it was. So then it makes you think even more. And then you see LAFC gets knocked out, and then you see Seattle, and that that Seattle is not going to be an easy out. I don't think anyone who was watching that Western Conference final thought it's a no-brainer. We're walking away winning that. There's, whether you call it PTSD or whatever you want, you knew that was going to be a game where you had to claw and scratch. But that is a skill that you want to see a championship team deliver. And the way that they were able to defend and to shut Seattle down and then eventually walk away with that goal. I know I saw a lot of emotions at MLS Cup. But to me, that was the first time I got emotional after the end of that game, because it was the relief, like, these guys are going to do it. We're going to get it done. And so that's when I first felt the emotions after watching that. And you feel a little silly here at, home by yourself watching a game for a team miles away, and then you start to feel emotional about it. But I did, and I almost felt more emotion with that than MLS Cup. But then how everything just kind of worked itself out. I talked about it last week with my mom's birthday lining up the day after MLS Cup, and, talking with my wife and saying, well, she said, you've been doing the podcast, you're a Galaxy diehard. You have to go. This is a no-brainer where you have to make it happen. And just everything working itself out, being able to snag tickets and then getting there. The only it sounds cheesy, but the way to describe it, you just felt like love in the air. Everyone was feeling good about it. With Riqui being out, you could just tell everyone was getting along. The vibes were good. There was just goodness in the air, especially knowing that the Galaxy hadn't lost at home, knowing that the Red Bulls were not exactly a dominant force. We knew they were going to maybe cause some problems, but you knew the Galaxy, even without Riqui Puig, were going to be the team that was probably going to be able to get it done. And then to have them go through it, have the early goals to where you think, oh, now it's a no-brainer that they're absolutely going to win MLS Cup.
Right.
And then New York gets one back and you have to worry about it. And then at the end, it just the other way that I can describe is the end of Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks celebrating. Everyone's just happy. We're hugging. We're celebrating. We got the cup, and it was just an amazing experience running into listeners of the show, seeing old friends who I hadn't seen in a long time, having conversations about the Galaxy, being excited that we're back. That was kind of the mantra. Are we back yet? Are we officially back?
You're back.
That was a nice little celebration that we got to have. So it was just an amazing experience getting to see everybody out there getting to see the celebrations. I maybe hung out in the stadium longer than I should have just because I wanted to soak it all in.
Right.
Hung out at the tailgate for a bit just to kind of see everyone having a good time. So it felt like a relief. It felt like, something. It felt different than the other championships. The other championships felt like you were happy, you're a fan, you want to see your team succeed. There's a bravado to that. This one felt more of like that one felt earned. It felt like you really, and obviously I didn't play. I didn't,
right.
I didn't, put 90 minutes and tear my ACL out there.
Right.
But that one felt like it meant something because there was so much that went into it.
I will say, I think there's a sense of relief, like that, like the whole day. I mean, because that's not a successful season unless you win that MLS Cup, right? You can't get there. You can't have one hand on it, Eric, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Right. So there was, the Galaxy knew that. I'll say it felt inevitable at some point during that game. Like the Galaxy were just going to win. I was like, oh, the Galaxy.
The second goal. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh, the Galaxy are going to win. Yes, New York scored. Even when New York scored, I wasn't necessarily concerned. I was like, oh, Forsberg, whenever he hits the outside of the post, you're like, oh, wow, that was luck. But again, I was sort of like, it's okay. Like the whole deal, just watching that team. And it was funny because I know that there was anxiousness in the stadium. I mean, there was that everything was sort of hanging on a knife edge, but at the same time, I really did feel confident. Somebody said, somebody asked me, when did you think the Galaxy are going to win MLS Cup? I go, when they beat Seattle in the Western Conference Finals. I was like, that's when. I go, because I figured that nobody was going to be able to do it. If you heard, and they were sort of showing some of the dramatic stuff that was coming through from the end, if you heard Greg Vanny in the halftime speech, I believe I'm saying this correctly, but he says, basically, we're going to score the first goal. These guys aren't good enough, right? Like
they're not good enough.
Up.
They're not effing good enough. I think was the exact phrase.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was sort of the idea is like, we're the better team.
Yeah. We should be better.
We are going to beat them right now. You should know this in your heart that you are the better team. Go out there and be the better team. And it wasn't like a brag. It was motivational. It's like, oh, this is what's happening. They're not good enough. They can't handle you, right? And it's something to say that Riqui Puig, probably the most talented, I think he's the most talented player on the team. We can talk about whether or not he's player of the year for the LA Galaxy. I think he should be, because I think he adds a lot to what Gabriele Pec does. Gabriele Pec is great. I love him.
Yeah.
Like really fun to watch, like the whole deal. I'm still going to tell you that in my heart, it's Riqui Puig and then Gabriele Pec for me. And I understand people who would go differently. That's fine. I just don't know how you take that away from Riqui Puig. He was the heartbeat of that LA Galaxy team, and you saw how they played differently. What did the Galaxy do in the second half, Eric? They played defense. When has that ever happened?
Yeah, they didn't have that cutting through and being able to dominate and hold the possessions. That was the difference. I'll take your offer there on someone who wants to argue that Riqui Puig isn't the player of the season.
Right.
I'll say that Gabriele Pec was the player of the season this season from what he was able to provide from assists and goals.
Yep.
And when they needed it at most, he was a player who was clutch. And I think you have to give Gabriele Pec his flowers there.
100%.
But I also will say, and I've said this earlier in the season, Gabriele Pec doesn't do what Gabriele Pec does without Riqui pulling the strings in the middle. And that doesn't, we're having the argument right now. Does that make Riqui the player of the season? I don't know, but I think there's a value in what Riqui brings, but he also made someone else the team's best player. And maybe that makes him the best player, but I think that's something. Gabriele Pec doesn't have the season without Riqui, and so that's the argument. But he also made Gabriele Pec a better player, and Gabriele Pec walked away with more rewards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting, like little tidbits here. By the way, I am getting called out that I didn't do the Greg Vanny like I said I was going to do. It's listen, I barely got the intro recorded and up and ready to go. Okay, so they'll play. Plus, I want to do it when Eric and I can both do it, and I knew either of us were in a position to be prepared to do it. So we will do it off season. We're going to do the Greg Vanny, right? We're going to
the Vanny show, yeah.
The blazer, no shirt underneath, and the scarf, right? We're going to have that. Yeah,
I've done it before.
Okay, good. So we're going to do that, and I promise we will absolutely do that. Let's get to some super chats because we did have some stuff. Adam, by the way, $5 super chat. Hey, guys, what's next in the offseason after the super draft and MLS? I mean, listen, what's next in the offseason is basically right now we're on the MLS expansion draft was yesterday. We can talk about that. Then their free agency opens today, which we had. End of year waivers was open today. Re-entry process stage 1 on December 13th, right? So that's tomorrow. And then it's December 19th is re-entry process stage 2. So there's all these little things that are sort of going to tick away that are, if you're interested in some of these things. Some of these I would say don't pay any attention to. Quite honestly, the free agency list, it's a large free agency list. There's a lot of stuff. You don't really need to worry about it until you start to hear about signings being made. I know that there were a couple free agents. The big one that everybody's looking at, I think, is Rusnak right now. Up in Seattle, and whether or not, and he's expected to stay with Seattle. There's not anything much there, but they have to do some things. They have some salary cap issues. The LA Galaxy, by the way, have salary cap stuff they're going to have to do. We'll talk about that here in a second. So that's sort of the big deal. And then December 20th is the MLS Super Draft. We had CONCACAF Champions Cup draws. There's a whole bunch of little things that sort of came out.
We've already advanced to the round of 16.
Look, didn't even have to play a game.
That's how good the season's going.
So that's what's coming up. Let's see. Lasso's Optimism, $20 super chat. Evening, gents. Getting reacquainted with being a champ feels pretty good. Now the countdown begins. T-minus until Ricky's back. No surprises with the expansion draft. What more could we ask for? Yeah, we'll talk about Riqui. We'll talk about expansion draft. But no, we certainly appreciate that. Lasso, $20 super chat. Robinson, $5 super chat. What are the chances the Dejan Joveljic will leave Galaxy for higher salary to another MLS team? And I hope the Galaxy offer him more money. Here, let's get into that a little bit because I think we should talk. If you're okay moving a little past MLS.
I am good.
Okay.
I think I went on a longer rant than normal, and I earned it.
That's
so I think we're ready to move on. And I don't know if Robinson was listening or if this is one of your burners. We're literally just having this conversation about Dejan. So talk about the hit that he's gonna have.
Understand this. So let's go over the roster decisions the LA Galaxy have. Currently, LA Galaxy have 19 players under contract for 2025 season. The Galaxy exercised the contract options on defender Jalen Neal and on midfielders Mark Delgado, Tucker Lepley, Isaiah Parenti, and Gino Vivi. So those are the ones the options were picked up. LA declined the 2025 contract options on goalkeeper Brady Scott and defender Martin Cáceres. And then they went on to say Cáceres, who recorded 2 goals and assists in 36 matches played, 34 starts across 3 seasons played for the club. Cáceres made 15 appearances, 14 starts during the 2024 MLS regular season. The Galaxy's MLS Cup 2024 win marked his 8th league title in his career, which is pretty cool. A little thing from Will Kuntz here. Great player doesn't just elevate their own performance, they lift the entire team. That Martin maintains such a positive, impactful presence even after suffering season-ending injuries is a testament to his character. We are grateful to his many contributions to the team. I think we talked about it a little bit, certainly on Monday night, but maybe we could even expand. If you listen to Amir Garces talk about how basically Martin treated him as his son, there is a reason that this team has been successful. We talked about Juninho and Gabriele Pec and how important that was. Super, super important. Greg Vanney went to Juninho before they even signed Gabriele Pec and said, hey, we're going to bring this kid in. We need you, basically. Yeah. We need you to be his guy. You talk about somebody like Amiro Garces. Emmy comes in and, here's the guy again. Hasn't been away from home. He's in Los Angeles for the first time, and he gets hooked up with this lifer, the guy who never likes to wear a shirt. That was funny, actually. In the celebration, they were like, take off the shirt, right? The whole thing. For Martin. And Martin was there. This is a guy who suffered a season-ending injury. I believe it was, a knee or an ACL or something like that. It was I can't remember exactly what it was. And we never really got that full story. We just kept being told he was out. We kind of knew when this was. This seems like it's it. I don't know that it's it. I don't know that he's officially announced retirement. But he's certainly not coming back with the LA Galaxy. We know that, and that's not surprising. But Martin Cáceres, we make jokes about guys like Miguel Berry sometimes or Eric Zavaleta. Every single one of those guys was important to this roster. Every single one. And that's a big takeaway. For people who complain about the lower salary guys, be careful because some of those guys are the reason that the LA Galaxy hoisted that 6th MLS Cup this year.
Yeah, it's like you said, the glue guy, there's an importance to that. Speaking of the Miguel Berry getting his love from Riqui at the celebration. Mira Garces talking about, Caceres and his mentorship. You talked about Zavaleta being a locker room guy. That stuff can be true in losing seasons, but where you really see it, the spark of that is in the winning seasons, and that's where you see the benefit of it. What I loved about the celebration, I was able to watch it on my phone on the plane, just watching the guys have an absolute blast, go through it. It really, and Kevin touched on this a little bit, it really is a shame that you don't get to see that throughout the season.
I know. Because
the only time you get to see it is when they finally let loose at the very end, and that's the personality that you say, man, I love these guys even more. And you see the bond that they have and how they interact with each other. You could tell, Pec is the shyest guy in the world, and they needed to bring it out of him to get him to say something, and he just is so, soft-spoken and well-mannered, like a literal choir boy. And then you see how they treat Paintsil and Barry, and that's the stuff that you wish we saw more of, and you don't get to see that. But God bless them for putting that on display and feeling loose and being out there, because that is the value where you get to see what a Miguel Berry means to a team, what a Zavaleta means to a team. Even how they look at a Cerrillo, they called him El Toxico. It's like, what's going on behind the scenes that Cerrillo is getting that kind of nickname. So that's the stuff that, really makes you develop these feelings and these bonds for these teams. And I think we saw a little bit of that in the 2011, 2012, and with AJ and Omar and Robbie Rogers, and a lot of the connections with these players were because we got to see their personalities. And, shout out to Spectrum, Backstage Galaxy, because you got to see that.
Yep.
And so not being able to see that, you realize how much you miss it in this situation. And I think back to the Dodgers playoff run. What made that team fun to watch? You could see them interacting in the dugout, having fun, how much they loved each other, how much they were playing for each other. That's what makes these moments special. So it's a little bit of a tangent from the Caceres Garza situation, but I think it is all connected, because we get to see it now because of the success. Garces gets to shout out, Caceres, but this could have been something that mentored him, even if they finished in 13th place. Right. You still could have been something where Garces walked away with huge, accolades and being set on the right path because of that season. Thinking back to Dejan Joveljic, which you've said how much Sasha Kleshin, is played a part in him being a professional. The season with Sasha Kleshin didn't end well, right, but look where Dejan Joveljic is now. And so that impact is real.
Yeah, you can feel those things, and you can see them. And again, people will complain about them when the Galaxy don't play well, but these whole things, the entire makeup of the locker room and what Will Kuntz and sort of Greg Vanney have sort of put together in the fact that they're like, this is a team that can play together, is really important. So I thought that was interesting just to sort of look at that. Now, I put out a tweet and basically said, the big decision will have to be on Maya Yoshida, whether or not you want to bring him back. Here's the thing, though. I think they're going to sit on that decision, and this is why. They have other salary cap issues. One of the biggest is that Dejan Joveljic, who is a U22 player right now, times out of U22 this year. So next year, when he comes back, he will hit the salary cap difference. So whether or not he makes more money is not really the important part of that, right? Because he's on about $684,000 right now for Joveljic, right? But his contract runs through the end of 2025, so he has one more year. But when you were 25, basically the year, you have to start the season and be 24, but you can't start a season and be 25. When he turns 25, basically he has stopped being a U22 player, which means the LA Galaxy then open up a U22 spot, right? But also, that means that now Dejan Joveljic hits the cap differently. And if we go back, we can sort of...
You got to pay him real money now.
Yeah, you have to pay... Exactly. You have to pay him real money, right? And so eligibility for U22, a player must be 22 years older, blah, 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 the whole deal that you can sort of go in there. A player who signs at age 22 or younger may continue to occupy the U22 initiative slot through the year in which he turns 25. That was this year. It was through that. That is it. So now... now you have a plot where he's going to hit a whole lot more against the cap. So that means even though you're not outlaying any more money, his cap hit is enough to cause you problems. The other guy who's going to change is the young designated player, Mr. Gabriele Pec, who we just talked about. So, basically his cap was up to, I think, $200,000 where he hit against the cap. Now his cap is going to be, I think, 375, or is it a full, I can't remember if it's the full amount a roster spot. But basically, that's what you get. So you had these guys discounted. So just in what they're doing, their cap hits are basically going to increase the Galaxy's cap by, I think, about like over $1 million.
Yeah, just by time the clock shifting over.
That's it. And so whenever you sit there, you have to start saying, how do you make up that money? Well, one of the ways you make up that money is going to guys like Maya Yoshida, who was making almost $900,000. And you're like, well, if you don't bring them back, that's a way you could make up most of that money. Now, I still think they're going to have to bring somebody back if they don't bring Maya back. And there's the discussion. I put out on Twitter, I said, I'm glad I'm not Will Kuntz in this, because I don't want to go to Maya Yoshida, who played almost every minute of every game and almost every minute of the playoffs and everything else that he did for this club and captained it to a 6th MLS Cup title, and be like, hey, Maya, man, you were so amazing. But you can't.
Thanks for lifting up that trophy.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that. By the way, you need to take a pay cut, a significant one. Mm-hmm. And at Maya's age, he's not as old as people think he is, by the way. I'm always like, calm down. He's 36, right? And he doesn't turn 37 until the end of August, right? So you're fine. Everything's okay. But it's one of those things that you have to consider. And I think that he may be one of those fit pieces, which is, how much money do we have left on the cap? Can't we make him fit? Maya, this is how much money we have. I think the same thing is with Eric Zavaleta. Do we have enough money to make you just fit? Because we'll happily put you in the same spot that you were this year, and that worked well and blah, 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 the whole deal. But that could be something that comes back. It's like the glue guys are great, but you can't pay a glue guy, if he's not going to do anything. I wanted to look up Caceres as well.
Because that feels like the one-to-one comparison, because I feel like he was probably not making league minimum. He was probably making a decent salary. So if you let him go,
right? Yeah,
Yoshida essentially it fills into that Caceres spot.
Maybe $660,000 roughly was what.
Okay,
Caceres
so that is more than
or
less than what Maya was making.
So I mean, it's not a bad shout that you might be able to swap those two in terms of positioning, and then you go and get somebody else on a center back, and it's going to have to be less money, right? Yeah. You are gonna be rolling the dice on a 36, 37-year-old center back. Not saying that Maya Yoshida has shown us any reason to be concerned about that, just saying that is a reality of what you're doing. And as we often talk so many years, it's better to get rid of somebody a year too soon than a year too late, right?
I look back to Robbie Keane. We look back very fondly on Robbie Keane and his time with the LA Galaxy, but there was an opportunity maybe where they could have he could have gotten some transfer fees and gotten for him, but he's hung around with the Galaxy and he didn't taint anything, but it wasn't the same Robbie Keane from the MVP season. And I think that's fair to say. I am always reminded of, there's a funny tweet that always goes around that, when someone sees you in your 30s and they say, hey man, you have your whole life ahead of you. And then when you see a mid 30s-year-old soccer or athlete, they say it's a modern miracle how they're even still playing. How are they even still doing this? So that always makes me laugh. We think of, the old grandpa, Maya Yoshida, and then here he is younger than both of us.
Yes.
So that's always kind of the funny thing looking through. Bringing him back, I don't know where exactly Yoshida moves on from here. So that could be a leverage in the favor of the LA Galaxy kind of figuring out what his next move is. So to take it back to Robinson's question about what that means for Dejan, with him being 25, entering potentially the prime of his life, scoring the goals that he did, coming up in clutch moments, that feels like you got what your money's worth for Dejan. He occupied the 22 slot, and now he gets to maybe fulfill a dream, go back to Europe. I don't know if an MLS DP making that offer, that doesn't feel like an MLS team would I don't see Montreal going and backing up the bus, to pay him $10 million to be at DP. But I do see, somewhere in Europe could be back to Serbia. It could be somewhere in France. It could be, somewhere in Germany, back to Germany, and some team offering 5, 6, 7, 8 million. And that could be a profit for the Galaxy. Even I was looking up on Transfer Market. I believe they paid, what's listed on Transfer Market is that they, it was a $4 million transfer fee for Dejan. Even if you sold it at that, I think you got what you wanted. You got your money's worth from him. I think he would probably take 6 to 8 million if Dejan went. And I think that's more of a direction where you make up the difference than the Yoshida piece of saving 200,000 or 300,000. I think saving the millions or making the millions in from a Dejan deal is more likely. And again, I was asking those questions at the beginning of the season. Is he going to be the guy? Is he going to step up? We're not bringing a backup striker. We're not bringing in another, proven goal scorer. And look what he did. He delivered when we needed him most.
Yeah, that it is. I mean, reportedly the LA Galaxy have turned down offers for him before, right? And so I think
there's a market out there.
There is. And I think if you're looking right now that even after an MLS Cup win with the number of goals he scored, everything that happened, his market price probably doesn't get much higher, right? So you're probably in the, I think anywhere between 7 and 12 is probably a pretty good range. And so somebody may find him. Somebody really could grab him in this sort of winter season. I mean, the other thing that could happen is that you're looking at somebody, if you want to talk about something that could really offset things, and let's be reminded that you can convert, I believe, up to $3 million of whatever your sale is into general allocation money, right? So you get to keep a lot of that money, but you can only take it into general allocation money, I think, up to $3 million. So that being said, you sell Dejan for 12. Well, you just solved a lot of problems by getting $3 million worth of general allocation money. Yeah, that you could do pretty much anything you want with. So I think that Will Kuntz and company are going to be very, very busy. The other side of that, the flip side of that, is if they really want to make a splash in terms of selling somebody, Gabriele Pec is making waves. If you want to pull the trigger on maybe a $20 or a $30 million transfer, Gabriele Pec could be that guy. Obviously, hearing teams in the Premier League possibly looking at him. So Arsenal, of course, one of those, and we've talked to Sophie about that. So
is she excited or what about possibly seeing?
She's probably
Pec join her.
Right. She's texting them, being like, "Hey, you should get this guy." The whole deal.
And I also want to think back something Kevin said on Monday. I know I'm referring other shows here, but other countries or other markets thinking, well, we want to see him do it another season to prove that he can do it. I think Pec's proved he can do it. I think if he can do it, I think back to some of these players who get big contracts after having a stellar World Cup or a stellar Euro, and they get they have a good stretch of 5 games. And they go and get these, $50 million deals because they're the next guy because they looked great in a European tournament, even though it was only 5 games.
Right.
So I think if that can happen, it seems a little unfair that you saw Gabriele Pec do it over the course of 40 games, and to say, well, we need to make sure that he knows what he's doing. I think you know what you got if you're offering money for Gabriele Pec.
Some more super chats here. We got Warner, a $5 super chat. Hey guys, curious to see if there's a video out there of the hammer as soon as the final whistle blew. I'm literally paying to see that. Right? Was there video or just a picture?
Oh, just a photo. I was able to get, someone did grab a photo of the moment where the tops went off.
Yes.
So that was definitely a thing that happened. But not tons of video. I've been a little bit, more off on, posting on social media and doing that because I know it's a cheesy thing to say, but like there was something about wanting to live in the moment and not have it, totally through my phone. Obviously, I did still have videos. I did still post some things. So there's not tons of video out there. And then the funny thing about, me doing my Mickey Mouse thing and taking pictures with everyone around the stadium and posing at photo locations, I hardly ever see a lot of those photos. So if you have those photos, post them, tag me, share them with me. I'm happy to throw any videos or pictures that I get out there. Just unfortunately, I wish I had video of myself at the final whistle. I think I went a little more nuts after the second goal. That was probably my peak performance during that match. But, unfortunately, no video of that happening.
Rock, by the way, $5 super chat says, as the wise Chris Tucker told me, and everybody's a big fan of Chris. Years from now, you won't remember how much you paid, but you'll remember you were there. 100%. Also, Chris also had got the flu, and he's been down, so hopefully he's feeling better. But I did see that dude kissing everybody. I mean, I know I got a kiss. Every guy that came up to hug him and say hi and see him. I mean, rightfully so, celebrating the way he was supposed to. So yeah,
It's funny. I got thrown under the bus too. Some sleuthing was happening there. Chris was mentioning that he was not feeling well, and they were like, "Well, Eric was sick. Did you interact with him?
You didn't have
Don't worry about me and Chris. Don't worry about the interactions that Chris and I had. Okay, just mind your business.
Mind your business." LA Galaxy Outsider $2 super chat. Tops off for Vanny, which is clearly a shirt that should be made. Chris $2 super chat. When do we debut in the Club World Cup? Can you believe the LA Galaxy got screwed out of the Club World Cup
Imagine.
again?
we were upset that it happened, and then just to go through it again. Yeah, we all knew the Miami thing was a farce, and I wasn't too upset about it, but we knew this was going to happen. We should have known the Galaxy were going to win MLS Cup the second they handed that berth to Miami.
That's it. That's the second time in LA Galaxy history that they've gotten screwed out of the Club World Cup. What year was that? Was that like in 05?
2000? Or I want to say it was 2000. Yeah, okay. 2001 maybe. Yeah, 2001.
Something like that. But the Galaxy basically were supposed to go to Club World Cup, and then it got canceled, right? And
I think they were even slated to play Real Madrid.
Yes.
And something got scrapped along the way
they
there.
Canceled it, and now the LA Galaxy again, the Club World Cup. We're ready to go, but nope, sorry, not gonna happen.
That's okay.
Not gonna happen. So, no. So that's sort of where the Galaxy stand. Listen, I've been having conversations. We haven't really kicked them into full gear yet, but I've been trying to figure out sort of where the LA Galaxy are, what they're trying to do. And I'll tell you right now, they think they have a lot of work to do in the offseason. A lot. Right now, what does that mean? That means Greg Vandy said at the celebration, we need to do everything we can to keep this team together. 100%. That's not going to happen. You're not going to have. And by the way, you shouldn't bring everybody back the same exactly. That's not. And two things happen in Major League Soccer. One is Major League Soccer makes it almost impossible to keep championship teams together. That's number one. Just with all the rules, and then with the cap, and then everybody wants a raise after you win an MLS Cup, and then the guys automatically get a raise, but you can't fit that under the cup. So the whole deal, the fact the Galaxy don't have a lot of academy guys that are really making things like academy guys make things a lot easier. Don't hit the caps and all that stuff. So there's that. So that's the one thing. That's one thing that's working against them. And two is everybody else is going to get better in the off. This is the whole idea. Is you're supposed to get better every offseason. The LA Galaxy
you're not going to catch anybody. Yeah. You're not going to catch anybody by surprise either. No. They're going to know the game plan. So you do need to add new. What is quivers? What's the arrow?
Yes, in your quiver. One of the
in
arrows
your quiver.
In your quiver.
Arrow to the quiver. There it is. Yeah. Again, it's late here.
I understand. It's fine. And besides, you weren't feeling well. There's an MLS Cup. The whole.
Sure. Let's make those excuses.
Let's make it. Let's move on a little bit to the LA Galaxy's expansion draft. There was a lot of. I think worry from LA Galaxy fans that they were going to get picked on this. San Diego FC did pick 5 players. From that, the LA Galaxy players that were left unprotected were Aaron Bibu, Miguel Berry, Gaston Brugman, Martin Cáceres, Diego Fagundes, Tucker Lepley, Isaiah Parenti, Brady Scott, Gino Vivi, Maya Yoshida, and Eric Zavaleta. Now, the big sort of ones I think everybody was focused on was Gaston Brugman and Diego Fagundes. We knew that their salaries.
I had that one circled.
Yeah. We knew that their salaries were pretty high, and so it was one of those. Let's see who they're going to do. But I'll be honest, if I was starting a team, just like they did in Austin, and they took somebody like Diego Fagundes, I really thought it was going to be Diego, and it's another one of those things. Each one of those guys making about $1.3, $1.4 million, like in that range, right? That's a lot of money, and both of those guys didn't start this year, right? And so another thing, how do you solve your salary cap issues? Well, moving Dejan Joveljic really does help out a lot. There's a lot of stuff that sort of seems to be moving in that direction. We'll see if it happens. The Galaxy only have him for one more year. That's another reason perhaps you move him now. Yeah. Right. So
otherwise he leaves for free.
Otherwise he leaves for free at the end, and you probably want to sell him, or you sell him in the summertime. Right. That's the other thing. You keep him and sell him in the summertime. But by then, you sort of have some things. There's some strategy to that as well. LA Galaxy will have some other tournaments to play in and do some stuff. And so if you can keep somebody through basically the summertime through June, you have a good, you can then sell in the summertime and then go ahead and, because you've already passed some of those tournaments, and then you can regroup sort of for the MLS Cup playoffs, right? So there's some things to consider in there, but ultimately nobody from the LA Galaxy got selected in the expansion draft, which was anticlimactic at best if you were watching it last night. I was.
Was there a stream? Yes. I just followed. Okay, wow, even better.
You had to go on sandiegofc.com, and then you had to sign up for the stream, and then they gave you the link, and then they wanted your email address. It's like, I don't want you. One, you guys already have it. Let's be very clear. I get press releases from San Diego, only because I happen to know who the PR person is down there.
Yeah,
so
they already have your email.
That's right, not a problem. But anyway, I got the stream, I got the link, and that type of thing, and I watched a little bit. And again, these things, we had been hearing things trickle out from that entire day that they had been making moves with people. And then, hey, we're buying an international slot for you. And if we buy an international slot, we won't take anything from you. There was those sort of the trades going on in a lot of this. So I had a feeling that the LA Galaxy might be left unscathed in this, and I think the LA Galaxy sort of felt that way too. Only 5 players from 29 teams, so it was that's the whole thing. It was a pretty small percentage whenever you look at it.
Yeah, that's what I look back to. I think early on with these expansion drafts, with fewer teams, and you felt like your players were more exposed. I think now with how big the league is, the chances of having players poached is a lot slimmer, right. And there is the chess that goes into it. I thought I had Fagundes circled as someone who it worked in Austin, having someone, to build your team around and have him be an integral piece, still close to Southern California, to where he just was. So, you could kind of have those talks into making it work. But I do think that the funny money component with these expansion teams and giving a little bit of a boost, may have made him susceptible. But I do think if you see who's in the San Diego front office and how they've built teams before, that it's not really their, MO to go and get, expensive players. It's more about the value outside of those DP slots.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, so that's sort of the expansion draft. And then we told you the schedule for some of the re-entry draft, stage 1, stage 2 waivers, free agency open right now as well. MLS Super Draft, I think, was on the 20th. Is that what it is? So, I mean, that's coming
Sounds
up.
right.
Yeah, they invited.
Everyone's ready for the Super Draft.
I got a list of, I know. Whatever. I got a list of college players that that are going to be invited to like the combine and that type of thing that they're doing. So they're bringing everybody together. So that is the off-season stuff they're sort of doing. We are expecting the LA Galaxy to return back for preseason sometime in January because they have CONCACAF Champions Cup. And if we're going to talk about CONCACAF Champions Cup, as I think we should announce, as Eric, you have already said, round of 16 for the LA Galaxy. Wow, amazing how that happened. Yeah, we did it, Joe. Hold on.
I was going to wait. Yeah, I was going to say, Joe. There we go. Have that to cover too. I know that was in the show notes.
It was just basically, I think I might even maybe I didn't have it in Mondays because I think it came out maybe the after. But we did it, Joe. There isn't a more perfect tweet for this podcast. Just so you know, after how many times do we text that to each other or say that to each other? That's constant. After every show, we did it, Josh. We did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. And it's a perfect meme. Yeah. So anyway, the LA Galaxy round of 16. This is it. They will play the winners of Salt Lake and Herediano, who's a Costa Rican club. And so that will sort of be that side of things. The things you have to worry about is that on the LA Galaxy side of things, and those are the official draws from everything. You can see a bunch of MLS teams are in there. So the LA Galaxy will basically take the winner of that last one on the bottom right, which is Salt Lake and Herediano. So, you can look at, by the way, Alajuelense is on the other side if you want to know where Alajuelense is, because it used to be, if everybody remembers, the LA Galaxy playing that Costa Rican side whenever they would advance, right? That's where Marcelo Sarvis was discovered. I was going to say, and Saprissa is also in there, so you could get the full Costa Rican trifecta. You get it all, right? So the whole deal. But on the LA Galaxy side of the draw is Tigres, is Cruz Azul, is Guadalajara, is Club America. So there's some giants that still have to be slain here. Not saying that it's going to happen, but that's certainly something to watch as we continue on down that path. So that's I was going to say, as they say in the Academy Awards, it's just an honor to be nominated, to be in the mix, to be playing against these teams. That's all we've wanted, right? Isn't that all we've wanted, is to be up against this type of competition? So that's the exciting part. Yeah, and I don't have dates for any of that yet, although we do know that this whole entire thing, the final, ends on June 1st, right? So that gives you an idea. Again, if you're going to sell people in the summertime, you can keep them all the way through basically, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So that's going on. There's also going to be Leagues Cup that gets played, right? The LA Galaxy will now play the wonderful game of schedule congestion that will be there. I would expect that the LA Galaxy will not be in the U.S. Open Cup this year. Don Garber said that there were going to be more MLS teams participating in the U.S. Open Cup probably this year, but it would depend on where you're playing and that type of thing. So if you have the LA Galaxy who are going to be in CONCACAF Champions Cup, it's unlikely they're going to be one of the teams that's selected as the U.S. Open Cup.
I feel like it can go the other direction.
Too, right,
I
because
feel
they're
like you
the
have your
highest ones,
MLS Cup champion, participate in, the U.S. Open. I could feel an argument for that also.
Right. I think they're going to try to offset with CONCACAF Champions Cup with the teams that aren't playing those games.
One or the other.
Yeah, it's going to be one or the other. I don't know that for sure, but that's sort of my guess right now. So that's something to sort of watch out for CONCACAF Champions Cup. The other thing that came in here, and of course it's the wrong one, is the top 10 clubs, right? And so they basically did the top 10 clubs in CONCACAF. If you were holding your breath on any of this,
don't get mad.
The
don't
LA
get
Galaxy
mad.
are in at number 10. Listen, I think it's generous to have them in the top 10. Listen.
Wow.
I love what the LA Galaxy did this year, but that's this year. It's like a snapshot in time, and the LA Galaxy got really hot towards the end of the year. And yes, do I think they were the best team in Major League Soccer at the end of the year? Yeah, they were, because they're the ones holding the cup. That's sort of how it works. But were they the best team over a 34-game season? We know that was Miami, right? Mm-hmm. So that's tough to sort of say that they should be above Miami. I would say that if that's the case and you sort of look at Miami, I don't know how Miami's not over top of LAFC with sort of how they played, but LAFC made a bunch of finals, just only won the Open Cup, which was sort of the weakest of those, right? So it didn't help them. Yeah. Also
a weird thing that, you have to your point. Okay, you can make the argument, LAFC top of the West by goal differential, being, putting them ahead of the Galaxy. But when you have Miami underneath LAFC is what makes it weird. But then it does snap into focus. There's coefficients and all these things. Yeah. It is over the course of multiple seasons and your, levels of wins, and you see the thousands off to the side there. That's the amount of points you get depending on your quality of opponent. And so that factors in. And so when you factor in that the Galaxy had 13th place last season, It's actually kind of impressive that they're landing in the top 10.
They're up 5 spots, by the way. 5 spots from the last time they were ranked 15th, now up to 10th, right? So the LA Galaxy in there. And by the way, you have to do stuff over multiple years if you want to do things, right?
Correct. That's why you can't get mad at this.
No, this is the start. Realistically, Eric, if I go back and place the LA Galaxy in, let's say, a 2009 position where the LA Galaxy come out from Bruce Arena, they go to MLS Cup, but they lose it. If you flip that around and you put Bruce Arena sort of in that, if you put the LA Galaxy now in this spot where that 2009 club was, which was sort of shocking everybody. Hey, the LA Galaxy are back. Okay, cool. They didn't quite win the cup. This time they won the cup. What happened in 2010? The LA Galaxy won a supporter shield. And then they got bounced in the playoffs by Dallas, right? So that was a little short, right? And it was like, then 2011 Supporter Shield MLS Cup. So they're building. If you want to say that this is going to follow the similar trajectory, the LA Galaxy just won in 2009, and now they're going to be what we would assume is one of the favorites for the Supporter Shield in next year whenever you start.
I think that should, if you're Greg Vanney, that's on the whiteboard in the locker room. That's what your goal. I know we poke fun at the Supporter Shield because of the unbalanced schedule and all of the other factors that lead into it. But I think as a coach and as a motivator and as a team, given that you just won the MLS Cup, I think where do you set the bar? That's where you set the bar and make that, maybe you don't make that external news, but that's, I think, where you set your goal with your Greg Vanney this season is this season we want to get the Shield. We want to have more points than anyone else on the field.
Yeah, and good luck, by the way. I mean, that's how it is. Also, I wonder what the narrative is now. The Eastern Conference's best teams didn't show up in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the best game of that was really, I think the LA Galaxy in Seattle was probably the most high quality game that got played in the playoffs whenever you look at some of those. So if that's the case, then what happened to the Eastern Conference? And does the Eastern Conference shrink a little bit because of the fact that they had such a poor playoff performance? I mean, I'm not trying to bang on the New York Red Bulls, who now 29 years in a row have never won an MLS Cup. That is a harsh pill to swallow. You don't need to say anything else. That's all.
That was a narrative that I did kind of have. I felt bad about it,
right? Because
here we are as poor Galaxy fans have waited 10 years, the 10 whole years without being in an MLS Cup final. And then we're looking across at these New York Red Bulls fans or New York, New Jersey Metro Stars fans. We're like, hey, 10 years, try 30 or try close to 30 years. Yeah. And so that narrative made me kind of chuckle, over the weekend.
It certainly is one to watch there. But no, it's just the LA Galaxy is going to be a much different season next year, and it always is. Everything always changes, and like I said, I expect the LA Galaxy. This will not be the same team. You will not see the same team that comes out, and that might mean starters aren't even the same, right? We're talking about Joveljic possibly not coming back. Right now, I think it's 50-50 that he doesn't come back for the start of this year, and if he makes it to summertime, then I'm sort of in the, okay, then it's 75% chance he gets sold in summer right now. We'll see how that plays out in a much too early to predict sort of way it goes. But that's I sort of see that. Yeah.
And I don't know if this makes me a bad fan or a bad person, but I also think there's a little bit of a honeymoon period where you have your MLS Cup, so. To me, in a way, it's like, hey, mission accomplished. We got what we needed from Dejan Joveljic, so I feel like it is okay to let him loose and to explore options. We got our MLS Cup, so if someone comes knocking for Gabriele Pec, I'm sure I want to keep Gabriele Pec here as long as possible. But if someone comes for $25 million, hey, it's time to let him go. We got what we needed out of it. So I don't know what that says about, if that says more about me or about the club. But to me, what's the goal? You want to win the whole thing. You got it. And so now you accomplish your goal. Now reload, reap the benefits that come along with it, which is having high price tags on these players who are able to get it done.
Pottermus, by the way, says Red Bull's always the bridesmaid and never the bride. False completely. They've only been to the dance twice. They've lost both of them.
They're not even invited to the wedding most of the time.
Most of the time. Remember, the LA Galaxy have appeared in close to 36% of all finals that have ever been played in Major League Soccer.
Wild stat.
Just crazy stat. And by the way, they won more than 20% of MLS Cups in Major League Soccer. More than 20%. The Red Bulls have won 0%. And very rarely get to go that. Again, not trying to crap on the Red Bulls, just trying to say how ridiculous the stat is for the LA Galaxy. 10-year gap in between there, and then all of a sudden it's like, they've been dominant like forever. Like it doesn't.
You woke us up again. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So, MLS Cup. That's right. We win these things. Yeah.
That's right. That's how it works. Heads up, blue, white, and gold pop-up coming up. A collection of businesses owned by LA Galaxy fans coming up on December 15th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is on Sunday, 2878 Columbia Street in Torrance, California at Absolution Brewing Company. Head on out there. Free, all ages, pet-friendly. There are so many awesome people who are going to be out there. Please go out and support these people. I am such a fan of so many of them, and if I can break away, I will absolutely. I might bring the kiddo, and we may have to traipse up to the blue, white, and gold pop-up for a little bit and say hi and see what kind of cool things. And he makes me buy him things everywhere we go, so I'm sure I will buy something. He'll be like, I need that, and I'm like, oh, okay. He was trying to keep Michael Araujo's ring today. He was like, I can have this. I'm like, no, you can't.
He's gonna
go
full Putin. I think that we're in a little dictator there. Yeah, what's happening?
100%. Updates on Riqui Puig. Riqui Puig on Wednesday, December 11th, underwent successful anterior crucial ligament surgery, ACL, reconstructive surgery on his left knee. The surgery was performed by Dr. Ramon Cugat at the Corlasaland Barcelona Hospital in Barcelona, Spain. That's all I can. I tried to get as flavorful as I could with it. So this is a guy. Right now the guess is August. So we just talked about everything. Remember, you're gonna have to. What are the LA? This is not a topic for this show because we don't have time to discuss it. It's way too long. But Eric, the LA Galaxy have to find out a solution for what they're going to do without Riqui Puig playing. And maybe that is, I almost dumped my water.
Yeah,
maybe that is,
we're angry about it.
Maybe that's, keeping Gaston Brugman and letting him play in that position. And certainly he showed it. Maybe it's Diego Fagundes. Maybe both of them together can sort of do that. Again, much longer to discuss about, but that's a decision the LA Galaxy have to make.
I know when players have been on season-ending injury lists, is there any, off the top of your head, is there any cap relief or any
there can be
extra things for having a player who's injured that's stashed away? Can we get a half a designated player? Like, how does that work?
That's the whole problem is he's not going to be out for the whole season, right?
Yeah.
So you can't SEI him or season-ending injury list. You could, if he was going to be SEI, you could bring in a designated player. You can do those things. But that's not going to happen because he's going to be back, and you want him back. quite honestly,
Correct.
you're going to want him back at the perfect time. You get him back in August, he starts to feel good about himself, and then you get him in the MLS Cup playoffs again. Look at that. The LA Galaxy suddenly think they're going to make the playoffs every year now. Oh, wow. Isn't that
the
fun?
expectation, winning the Shield without Riqui Puig.
Well, there you go.
Maybe we should lower the expectations a little bit.
It's only been like 6 days since the LA Galaxy won an MLS Cup. It's still new, right? We're wearing new clothes. We're not quite used to them yet. Okay,
we're doing the strut as we're walking through here.
Right.
I will say, watching Riqui Puig make a TikTok at the airport with his family dancing. It's like, aren't you getting knee surgery? Don't you have a torn ACL? And he's just having a blast doing his own thing. So, we'll see. I'm wishing him a speedy recovery. Heroic moment against Seattle, being able to dish that off. And the legend of that is going to live forever in Galaxy minds. This 2024 MLS Cup is going to have his fingerprints all over it because of that moment.
Yeah, he will. Let's see. Last thing, construction started. In fact, I saw photos today of
they're doing it.
They're videos of bringing trucks in and doing the whole thing. The field is getting torn up. I know people who have gotten little pieces of that. They've been sending me pictures of like pieces of the field and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know where that is, but basically
collector's items.
Right. There's all dirt out there right now. The Galaxy are redoing a whole bunch of the seats, so all the lower bowls will all have seats. We know that. They're redoing the cabanas. If you're asking about Lars will get the Quasar over there in the corner, but they aren't getting safe standing or anything. It's just going to be normal seats. And you have to imagine that's the LA Galaxy making this still a multi-purpose venue, right? Which is, hey, those are still good seats, and so we don't want to have safe standing in those places all the time.
Yeah.
Usually the stage, whenever they set up a stage for inside this thing, goes against where Victoria Block is towards the end. So that's why those safe standing seats are probably at whatever it ends up being, but no safe standing over on Lars, but all the lower bowls will have better seats. That's the idea. You
will have a flip up, I believe is what they said. And the color change, them being blue and kind of matching that. Yeah. People thought we were silly for, saying, hey, well, the green chairs look out of place. Yeah. But hey, it wasn't wrong. Right. I think getting it all match and cohesive, once Victoria Block went in, this was something that the writing was on the wall that needed to get done. So, kudos to them. It's going to be a welcome addition next season.
No, it's super, again, just super interesting, the whole deal. They're also doing all of the cabanas. They're doing cabanas down, I think, closer to the field as well. There's these new sort of field side seating that you can sort of see go in there. That's going to, I imagine, it's just going to take up the sidewalk that's there, right? So basically there's a big sidewalk, so that'll sort of be there. There's going to be a new entrance or a new look to the American Express Stadium Club, so that's going to get redone. All the bathrooms we've talked about getting redone and that type of thing. So, that was the big news that we got whenever we talked to Tom Braun, whenever he was on our show at
Breaking
Park.
News.
Breaking news. That's right. We got it right there.
The Galaxy have won an MLS Cup in every season that they've invited Corner of the Galaxy to do a pregame event. I'm just saying.
Don't want to break that curse, right? That's the idea.
You got to keep it alive.
Final thing, just some stats and stuff that I wanted to throw together here. They talked about most goal contributions and the LA Galaxy right now with Gabriele Pec, Riqui Puig, Dejan Joveljic, and Joseph Paintsil have 124 total goal contributions, which breaks the record because it's season and postseason. Whenever you look back at the LA Galaxy in 1998, I believe, was Welton, Kobe Jones, Mauricio Cienfuegos, and Martín Machón, 122. So 122 and 124. Record as I stated.
Are we sleeping on Welton? Do we not talk about Welton enough?
We don't talk about Welton enough. But like it's one of those ones that's sort of like the one-off, right? You're like, oh yeah, I remember. Right, that's right, Welton. But what I would like to point out is the record-breaking LA Galaxy continue to break records, right? I mean, that's sort of where you're seeing this. The whole year, Eric, we had trouble trying to classify this team. Is this a good team? Is this a bad team? What is it? The whole deal, and certainly the PTSD of the since 2017 was interfering with the clear view of what we were seeing.
Yeah.
But they set a lot of records. They did a lot of things. And now we get to sort of sit. And I don't want to have this discussion yet. I want to have the discussion like in 4 or 5 months. We're going to have this discussion. Where does the 2024 LA Galaxy sit in terms of the best LA Galaxy teams ever? Because I'm telling you right now, if you have them outside the top 3, I don't know what you're looking at. And if you have them inside the top 2, I'm kind of in your corner right now. But again,
I had this we were having this conversation post game. Where does this land? And I feel like 2 is the right thing to put it in.
It's behind 2011. Yes.
But shout out to friend of the show Thomas. He actually ran in Chat GPT a hypothetical who would win.
Right.
If these teams win each other. And spoiler alert: 2024 LA Galaxy wins 3-1 in this hypothetical scenario. But then you get into this comparing eras thing.
It's tough.
To where if you drop this team in 2011,
right?
It's Gabriel. They haven't seen anything like Gabriele Pec in 2011, so that becomes a whole different conversation. So I pumped the brakes on that, but
right.
I think they're in the conversation all season long, and we're seeing it now. I think it did become clear during the playoff run is that it was the PTSD that was shading because you had this team making comebacks. You had the 3-game Vanny win streak. Right. You had, the goal contributions, multiple double-digit goal scorers.
Right.
And this was building up throughout the season, and we kept fighting it.
Right.
And then at the end, we finally realized, no, they were the real deal. They were there the whole time. This was spoiler alert, M. Night Shyamalan. He was dead the whole time. It was kind of the reverse of that. They were alive the whole time.
I was listening to Tim Howard and Landon Donovan's Unfiltered Soccer, right? They have that podcast. By the way, one of my favorite listens now, just because.
Right, they're catching flack.
Good. You know what? They are doing a good job. I think
they're giving their perspective.
They are,
which 100%. Is fair. Yeah,
and they're like
their perspective is valid. I'll give them that.
There is. I mean, you can listen to us all you want, but we never played professional soccer, and especially not in Major League Soccer, and especially not.
There's a conversation for another day. I'm ready to have that argument,
okay.
But go ahead.
Yes, I understand. But one of the things they were talking about, and just talking about MLS Cup, Tim Howard goes, you go to Dignity Health Sports Park. He goes, you go and you're on that field and you play on that field. He goes, you can go to different stadiums anywhere you want, anytime, and you go. And he goes, the field dimensions are pretty close to the same, the whole deal. He goes, don't know what it is about Dignity Health Sports Park. He goes, but that is like the widest, longest field, and it feels like it is the biggest field that you play on. And Landon was like 100%. He goes, we used to use that to our advantage all the time.
It's the sidewalk.
It is. It's the sidewalk and but it's also the field. The field's a little bit wider, right? And the LA Galaxy with the speed they have and like the 2024 LA Galaxy is built to use that field, and it causes people problems. You want to know why the LA Galaxy are so good at home? Because that field feels so big, and then you put guys like Gabriele Pec or Joseph Paintsel who are speed demons out there, and you're just like, we can't cover all that ground, right? And how many times did we watch teams at Dignity Health Sports Park just fold up in the second half and be like, man, these guys look tired, right? Hey, there you go. The little insight went off whenever I saw that. I was like, oh, geez. I go, is this really? And I go, the whole deal. We're used to just seeing it. So
it feels like a Main Street at Disneyland illusion type of thing. I think with the new modern stadiums with the seats built right on the end line, it makes it feel more intimate. And I think with the space between the field, it may not be any bigger. The dimensions might be exactly the same, but mentally you're looking at it differently.
That's about all I have. Wanted to get to the last couple super chats. Tim, $2 super chat. Who's the starting left back, Nelson or Aude opening day? It's Aude. And I know people are like, what? You're going to do that to John Nelson? I don't even know if John Nelson's still here, because you want to talk about a piece you could move? John Nelson is a piece you could move, right? Because that's
get your money, John Nelson.
Get that check. Get that check. Gustavo, $10 super chat. Joveljic, underrated player of the season. It's not that he's underrated. It's that he gets overshadowed by Riqui Puig, Gabriele Pec, and Joseph Paintsel. And he doesn't deserve to get overshadowed because as far as it's not just the killer P's, it's those four were absolutely outstanding this year.
But I also think that's where Joveljic thrives is we've seen moments when you almost count on him too much and then it felt like he falls short.
Right.
But when you're counting on the other players and he steps up, it feels like a welcome reward. And so the pressure off of Joveljic in that situation, I think that's his niche. That's where he really works out there.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Gustavo, $5 super chat. Galaxy versus everybody. Shout out League Villains, aka Danielle and Browns. Thank you to
huge shout out. For the shirt
to all the hosts, Kevin, Hammer, Sophie, Alex. We appreciate that, Gustavo. And I think we're good. Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? Is there anything that's top of your mind?
No, just happy to be on and to I say this even when the Galaxy aren't doing well. Whenever we can come on here and talk LA Galaxy, it always is the highlight of my week. And so just kudos to you for another great season. I know we're not we'll probably take a little bit of a break, right? A little bit of a break. Yeah, just shout out to everyone keeping us, excited and coming to do this every week. I'm treating this kind of like an end of the year celebration and end cap of it. There was a lot of energy and work that goes into it. So to see why are we doing this to support a team to win it all, this is what it's all about. So to be able to enjoy it and live in it, I think we were there, even going into the Seattle game, we were in the moment saying, hey, know where we are, don't take for granted where we're at, and just we're in it right now, and to be able to enjoy it. I felt like I was able to enjoy it. And part of that is to the listeners and the people who we interact with on social media, and to you and to everyone, when we do our group chats and everything. That's what makes this all worth it and all special. So, kudos to everyone involved, and hopefully we keep it going for another one.
Yeah, crazy year whenever you think about everything. I mean, crazy last 2 years, just the juxtaposition from down in the canyon to the top of the peak, right? Mm-hmm. It's like one of those. It's a crazy climb. Glad we could document it. We've had some unbelievably nice messages that have come across, and I won't share any of them just because they're special. I don't need to, but just know that if we can entertain you, if we can inform you, whether you are a Galaxy fan, whether you're somewhere in the front office, because we certainly know we have people who listen to us in the office, and we certainly appreciate that you think that we're even worthy of that. Listen. That's there. If you're a player, a friend, a family, any of those, we get a lot of kind words said to us.
And that means a lot, because you want to be respectful of it, and it's nice to remember that. I keep referencing the previous shows, but there are real people on the other side of this who have families and grandmothers and spouses and fathers and cousins who listen and have that as their connection. And so. You want to be honest, and you want to tell it like it is, and provide that analysis as much as you can to the fans, but you also want to honor and respect the people that we're here to support, and why we love the game and why we love this club. So you want to be respectful of that. So to have them buy into that is a very cool experience.
It's wonderful. It's the only reason I would continue doing this on a regular basis. I'll tell you right now. So. And also the free pupusas. That's another reason.
That's reason 1, 2, and 3 right there.
I believe the LA Galaxy are going on a promotional tour down to El Salvador. I think there's some of that going on. So you know how they always usually
the Herbalife. They're always somewhere. Yeah.
Yep. So I think they're actually down in El Salvador this time, which means they get the good pupusas, which is awesome, by the way. I've gotten... hysterically, I've gotten so many offers of people who's like, "Oh, my mom makes the best pupusas I'm bringing." I'm like, I'm here for it. I just want you to know, you're not bothering me. I appreciate that you think that I'm worthy of your mom's pupusas or your grandmother's pupusas or anything. I'm here for that. I embrace that fully. And I'm so excited that we get to do any of this stuff. We're going to do some off-season stuff eventually here. I am talking about doing a Corner of the Galaxy Day at the Train Club, and so what that looks like and how that works, we're going to make that happen. But we're also trying to do something in the off-season that might be something a little more formal. Maybe Kevin and I were talking about possibly doing a dinner. Yep, a dinner.
Get the bow tie.
Where you come and sit and have dinner at a restaurant, and maybe we have some LA Galaxy people come talk to you, and we'll talk to you, and we'll sort of have a fun little show that we put together, but something a little more informal, more formal dinner, but an informal show where maybe it's not recorded, that type of thing. We don't have to have
an evening with COG.
That's right.
With Joe Totino LA Galaxy wine provided.
Wow, yeah. I'll tell you, man, that's you're already selling things, man. We'll have to get Joe on board, but no, just some amazing people around. So we're gonna work on that stuff as well. I know it's gonna be so fast. We're gonna be in like Coachella in no time as well. I just point that out.
It's gonna come real quick. Yeah.
We'll take a little break. I don't plan on the show on Monday or Thursday of next week, and that could progress all the way into Christmas as well, but we'll see sort of how that goes. If there's any big news that we have to cover, we will jump back on and cover that. So everybody take a deep breath, relax, enjoy this time off. If you're looking for us on any of the social media sites, I'm sure you can see us for sort of any of that additional analysis as it comes up. So anything else, sir?
Hey. You enjoy the break.
I will certainly try. We'll see if we can make that happen. Eric, tell people where they can find you.
All right. As always, you can find me on everything at Hammer EV9. So Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, all the fun things at Hammer EV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, any of those places, Threads, at Galaxy Podcast, at Guesman, cornerofthegalaxy.com, of course, is where you can find us. SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Play, any of those fun places, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, get in on that. We're going to have more stuff coming for you very, very shortly. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, for Mr. Michael Arahu, who rushed in here to do our announcement at the very beginning. We certainly hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Enjoy that 6th. We'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Arajo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.